Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Zoomed In Fantasy Football Show here, presented by. And here we are, American Scouser's Fantasy Football Show, coming in for Gameweek 32 here. We have a special guest here. Trevor is joining us in the midst of Gally's absence. Trevor, how are you doing?
Fantastic.
It's good to have you on the show. It's good to have someone else who's also better than me on the show because I will consistently just be the bottom of anyone who's on here. So 'tis how it goes. As far as the fantasy year, because you haven't been on the show, kind of how are things going this year? Are they going as expected, a little better, a little worse? Where are we at?
Yeah, my goal, because in past seasons it's an up and down thing where there's years where I've kind of given up because I either had too many injuries and I just abandoned ship, or I kind of missed 1 week and it really just threw everything off kilter. But now I think this year I've kind of worked as best as I could, and I've still kind of not been able to crack the top million. So there's sometimes just all of the things that you can do is still ends up futile.
Yeah, it's as much as we like to give credit to really good fantasy players, you have to recognize at the end of the day, there is a lot of dumb luck that comes into this as well.
Yep.
Especially in a game where you can't make any changes once the first match of the weekend starts. It's really difficult to try and use any sort of strategies past that. So it's all just down to dumb luck. Obviously, if you're playing a bunch of players who only sit on the bench, you're not going to have a good time. You're not going to do well. But even if you are playing players who are supposed to go the 90, who you feel are going the 90, they might get a random break. They might get hurt in training. Who knows? So that's kind of where we're at. So taking a look at this past week, it was kind of an interesting week. We saw Holland go off. We saw Watkins go off. We saw Odegaard go off. And so it's kind of nice to see some of those names come back to, maybe not Watkins so much because he's been delivering on a pretty weekly basis for the last 2 months here. But I know Odegaard has been quiet for a little bit. And some people went off Holland these past couple weeks, and Holland will be Holland. So I wanted to first kind of take a look here at your team. And for anyone who's not familiar with this here, this is live FPL. This is sort of what I like using when you're looking at how you did comparatively to the rest of the world. So we can see here that Trevor had green arrows last week, which is always good. You always like to see green arrows.
Yeah.
You moved up 54,000 spots, puts you just out of the million club. I'm sure you have plenty of room to make over the next 6 weeks or 7 weeks to get back there. But yeah, let's take a look at your week here. Tell us, did you make any moves from the previous week into last week?
So this one, I didn't have any. I'm kind of just saving my my transfers for this one. The big thing was just making sure that I got everybody in that I knew was gonna play, because I had Rashford in for a while, and then that not last second, but when he was ruled out, just kind of making sure that I got him out of the lineup, because that's one of the things that's screwed me over in the past. Be like, oh, I'll take care of it, and then there's that Friday match like there is this week where, oh no, yes, I'm at work and I completely forgot there's a Friday match and I'm screwed.
And Rashford's sitting there with the C on his chest, like, okay, this is going to go absolutely nowhere. And the vice captain is your goalkeeper, because you're like, I'm never going to use my vice captain. It's fine. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, this is not going to plan.
Yeah, pain.
But a very good week overall. Honestly, anytime you are able to get green arrows, I feel is a good week. I know some people will argue that it's nice to have a bigger gap between that safety score, but I feel like it's a good testament that if there's 12, 13 million players that are playing, if you are still above that safety score, you're doing better than 6.5 million people in the world, which I feel like is a pretty cool thing when you look at it from that perspective.
Yeah. The bigger picture.
Yeah, absolutely. Taking a look here, this is what I had come out with. I brought Darwin in and Trent in. Kind of got lucky with that Darwin goal at the end there and the Trent assist. Otherwise, I wouldn't have really had the score that I had. I took a -4, which would have bumped me up a little bit more. Again, similar situation to Trevor and a lot of players. Saka did not look
Saka,
at all.
That penalty was rough.
That was very rough. Shades of Mo Salah, unfortunately for us here at American Scouser. But other than that, pretty much what was expected as far as the rest of the team goes. When we look at the fantasy transfers in and out this week, we'll kind of take a look and see what we're looking at. We have the likes of, when we look at the ins, we have Eze, Watkins, Salah, Trent, and Tyrone Mings. Off of this list, is there any name that specifically jumps out at you? Do you think there's any name that people are too late on the train on? Are there any names that you think shouldn't deserve to be on this list?
Well, Watkins is one of those ones where I've kind of just stayed away from like differential's sake. Not that I'm not a believer in Ollie Watkins, and at this stage of the game, I should be in with Ollie Watkins, regardless of whether or not I'm trying to make up ground by just being different. But the only one on there that I can see being a bit reactionary more than anything is Eze, because of how Crystal Palace has played. And yeah, there could be something where it's something where him and Elise finally have found that special sauce between the two of them and can get consistent returns. And I hope for the people that are taking that risk with either of those, and I'm sure if the list went down to like 10 or 15 people, Elise would probably be on there too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think definitely in Eze's case, I agree that it's a bit reactionary, but they do have some great fixtures coming up with Everton, Wolves, and West Ham, and I think that's something that some people, I think at this point of the year, a lot of people are looking to take those punts that will get them up to a certain level they want to get to, and it's kind of throw everything into this this basket here. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I'm not going to lose out so much. And kind of this is the time to take risks. Essentially, is where I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree overall. I think with Liverpool's fixtures coming up, Mo and Trent being back in makes sense. And then interestingly, surprisingly for some, I mean, Tyrone Mings at 4.6, not a terrible price for a center back that plays every single minute of every single game. And given Villa's run of form since, I don't know, October, right? They've been pretty great. So I don't know if you'll get consistent clean sheets from Villa towards the end of the year. They have Brentford, Fulham, and Man United again, for their next three. I could definitely see them conceding in two of those games. But you never know. So I think if you are looking for, again, that differential, that guy that doesn't cost a lot but is guaranteed to play 90 minutes, Tyrone Mings isn't a bad shout.
Yeah, and on set pieces too, he can make things happen. And like you said, for a guy that plays 90 minutes, all those different opportunities and all those different scenarios is what makes a guy of that price very, very lucrative.
Absolutely. When we look at the transfers out here, we've got the likes of Rashford, Holland, Matoma, Chilwell, and Kane. Rashford, kind of understandable, with any sort of injury, there's going to be a lot of players that are going to transfer out of Rashford. The interesting one for me, I understand it's a blank game week, so I imagine maybe a lot of people are using their free hit, because I wouldn't necessarily understand the situation where someone would want to transfer Holland out to waste a transfer to get them back in necessarily. So for me, the Holland one is a little iffy, but then I do see that Arsenal fixture there as well. And maybe some people don't believe that he's going to return in that fixture as well. So they're okay getting off of him for 2 weeks. You mentioned that you're probably not going to make any moves this week. Is that what you said before?
Yeah, there's a chance that I kind of renege on that promise tomorrow.
Anything you say here, you're not stuck to, by the way. You can change whatever you want.
Yeah. But I think if I was going to get off of anybody as a blank game week guy, it would probably be a Kanji. I would just leave Holland on my bench, because I don't necessarily enjoy when there is that mass exodus and then the prices drop and then I have to kind of make that money back in a different fashion. But I can understand if, like you said, if people still have their free hit kicking around.
Yeah.
If that's how the big chunk of that transfers out for him, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any chips left for the rest of the year?
I have bench boost, which
Bench boost. Okay. Are you eyeing a week to use that?
To be fair, the week I was going to use it, and I've seen in the Discord the week that you said it and it didn't stick. I was right there with you, buddy. I did the exact same thing. I made the exact same screw up, and I was sitting at work trying to get on the crappy Wi-Fi of the building next door to get it in, and it just wasn't meant to be.
Oh, it's so frustrating, isn't it? It's especially, because other buttons you just click and it saves automatically. And then I've been playing a lot of MLS fantasy. So whenever you make a change, it just auto saves. And I was just thinking to myself, okay, yeah, it's just going to auto save. I don't know. I don't need to do anything about it. And yeah, it did not stick the way that I intended it to. But alas, that kind of puts us in a fun position, though, because we have the flexibility to use that if we want to. I do still have my free hit left. I have my triple captain left, and I have my bench boost left. So I might just be that asshole who just wants to win the cup competitions at the very end of the year and be like, no matter what happens, I might finish out of the 3 million spot, but I'm gonna win one of these cups. God damn it!
Yeah.
That's what I want. Especially if it means
you're bringing home silverware somehow.
Exactly. I mean, call it the Mickey Mouse Cup. That's fine. I have the cup then. That's what's most important.
Yeah.
That's what's most important to me, at least. Anything that Galley doesn't win is always a good win in my book. So speaking of Galley, and this is sort of an unfortunate situation for Galley and Trevor alike, from what I understand. The American Scouser League started their cup this past week. And I'm just getting this up here because there are a lot of buttons you got to press to finally get there, and then you have to change the game week, and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's a bit of a counterintuitive process to get the exact things here.
There we are. Look at that. Okay, so
let's go. We have to scroll through all the game weeks that don't exist. Yeah.
The only thing I'm confused about here is I'm not listed on here. Hold on, you guys. So what happens when Galley's not here? This just becomes just a fun mess, which is fine. You know what?
Just go to yours.
Yeah. You know what? That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go.
We don't need this. We don't need to see.
You see all these L's? This is why I didn't want to go into mine, because this is all it is. It's just red L's.
Oh, yeah. If you want to see a parade of L's. I could pull up mine,
click on your profile.
And it is just and on mine it's on the app, so it's gray instead of red, so it's at least a little bit less abrasive.
Yeah, it's not so in your face,
showing you all your failures. Yeah.
So this was last week, or this past week was a win over P Diddy, 67-46. I kind of lucked out. We didn't play a really high score there. And then we're going to go up against Seri Torre this week and see what happens. Unfortunately, Galley and Trevor were knocked out.
Yeah.
But to go back to the league overall, since we want to do these updates as well here, Guns and Nunez and Pep have been going back and forth the last few weeks. And it looks like Guns and Nunez has once again taken the top spot over Pep with a huge 81-point game week, which is really impressive. And when you consider his total score of 21-19, what that puts him in overall rank, he's 5,037th in the world, top 5,100 out of all the players in the world, and he is part of our league in American Scouser, which is really cool. And I mean, just because Pep is in second place doesn't necessarily mean they're having a bad year either, because they're top 8,000 overall. So two players here with incredibly great ranks, and they will be duking it out until the end. A lot of fun to see. And hopefully it stays tight throughout the rest of the year. Another update for you guys that we do. Then, Trevor, you'll have to get in on this next year. Is the Contributor League head-to-head here. First place was taken on second place here, and Kelly kind of took her foot off the gas a little bit. I was told, Galley was telling me that she was really trying to catch up to me here, really revving the engine, but unfortunately wasn't quite able to make it happen this week. I somehow ended up being the highest. Oh, never mind. Scott was the highest scorer of the week with the 69. So nice. Good to Scott. Standings here, as you can see, this is what we refer to as chalk. It's just what's going to happen, you guys. I'm atop of the leaderboard as things go, as is tradition. It's fine. But as we know, there is the cup competition at the very end, where I believe it's going to start game week 36 or game week 35. So we'll see what happens there. So that is your update from American Scouser here. Let's kind of transition. These are just fantastic transitions. I feel like we're really just going through this quite a bit.
Plowing through.
Hey, I mean, whatever it takes, right? So let's go to a transfer planner here because why not?
Yeah.
This is your team.
Peeling back the curtain.
Yeah, why not? Just into the minds of who we are. Yeah. That's my team, actually. That's not gonna. Nope, that's your team. Nope, I don't know whose team this is. This is no one's team.
It's just
this
pull
is
a
very
random
weird.
Team.
Yeah,
just
here.
Critique it.
Let's take a look at this team. Let's see what the holes that they have. I don't understand where I can.
All right, that looks
like my team.
Yeah.
Which okay, that's fine. So, looking at my team here, kind of overall seeing where we're headed, there is a pretty big blank game week this week. In case people don't know, we have the likes of Brighton on a blank. We have the likes of Manchester City on a blank. We have the likes of Manchester United on a blank and Chelsea on a blank. So that's Chelsea, Man U, Man City, and Brighton. A lot of people have between, I'd say, 5 to 7 assets on average, I think, between all 4 of those teams. I think a lot of people are on 2 or 3 Brighton, 2 City, possibly 2 United, and maybe 1 or 2 Chelsea in Kepa or a defender. Just because, as Kepa has been the last 2 months, a really cheap starting goalkeeper, can't go wrong in FPL because you can definitely save your money and use it elsewhere. So, looking at that here with my team, I've got Estupiñán, McAllister, Matoma, Holland, Kepa, and Chilwell on a blank this week. I only have 1 transfer to use. I am planning to use my free hit this week. So what I'm looking at mostly as the strongest fixtures, I'd say. So I'm looking at Liverpool at home against Forest. I know it's kind of been an up and down year for Liverpool assets. At the beginning of the year, I was all high on Liverpool, as everyone else was. Yeah. And then things really came crashing down. And every time it looks like they're coming back, they get absolutely brought back down to earth the next game. So who knows? They might lose to Forest again, 1-0 after a 6-1 win at Leeds. So it's just the things that you have to consider. Besides that, Fulham at home against Leeds is another one that people have been considering, I've seen. And then possibly Newcastle at home against Tottenham, a possibility for some assets there. Any sort of, if someone is looking at doing a free hit or looking at bringing specific assets in from a specific team, is there any matchup that you specifically like or you would shoot for in your case, for in a kanji? Are you comfortable with the rest of your defenders, or are you looking to bring in a defender for one of these fixtures here?
If I'm going to move off him, it's definitely going to be for a Liverpool defender in my mind, because even if the game doesn't go as we pessimistically believe with Forest, I don't think it's going to be super high scoring, and you always have those chances of Robbo or Trent making something offensively against a team that's playing as poorly as Forest. So that's what I would do if I'm going to eventually move off something like that, because the Fulham Leeds is a mess, and Fulham at least could potentially do something, but I none of those guys back there I have any real hopes for more than a clean sheet from. So
Yeah.
If I'm going to move off a guy that I want to keep for the home stretch, I'm not going to waste a transfer just for hope
Yeah.
of a clean sheet at this point with no other possibilities.
That makes sense. Yeah. So looking at your team here, you've got 0.1 in the bank. If you are to go off of a kanji, you're sitting at 5.1. So definitely, I mean, the likes of Ben Mee, Will Saliba, Ben White, possibly, if you wanted to throw in another Arsenal asset, because you only have 2 Arsenal players. So you do have the flexibility to get that third one in there. If looking at this here, having Trippier, Mings, probably would you take a -4 to make a second change as well, or are you just going to stick to the 5.1 that you have in the bank?
Yeah, if I was gonna take a hit, it would probably be to get uh, Trent in, and I'd probably transfer out Rashford just to kind of jump on that party and then get kind of a bargain midfielder,
Yeah,
whoever.
yeah, because then
Yeah, took
if
my fancy at the last second.
you could definitely get an Andres Pereira potentially if you wanted to at 4.3. So would give you zero point 0.3 remaining. So the fun thing is, if I know when Gally hosts the show, we don't really do too much of this live stuff. It's more just pictures that are plastered up here. But for anyone watching, this live FPL tool is really neat if you are looking to kind of plan out whatever you're looking to do, because you get to make all these changes. You can save it. You can do several different plans. These are your plan numbers, right? So you can save it under those plans, and then you can continue going. You can go to Gameweek 33, and then you're set up with the team that you are putting people in with. So Pereira's there, Alexander Arnold's there. So you get a future look at to what you want to do. So I think as a tool overall, it's really awesome. And the nice thing about this is during the weekend, this site doesn't crash whenever someone scores a player. Whenever someone scores, because the moment someone scores, everyone's trying to log on to FPL, and the server crashes because it can only handle like 17 people on at the same time.
Yeah.
And then you have to wait half an hour to see the updates. Whereas live FPL, they are updating just like that every single time. I don't know what the magic is behind it, but it is a fun tool, and especially if you're someone who likes the idea of having stuff planned out for 6, 7, 8 weeks at a time. It's good to get a template out there to be able to see, all right, this is what was on my mind. Do I need to move away from that? Because what Gally and I have kind of talked about all year is that sometimes going with your initial gut is usually the best way to go, and we end up second guessing ourselves and kind of overthinking it. Do you find, as a fantasy player, do you have that problem where you overthink things, or do you kind of just stick to whatever your idea was at the beginning?
Most of my overthinking has over the years come with chip usage. I'm usually pretty steadfast. I don't like to tinker at the last second with my lineups. I usually, unless the Friday games always snipe me on that front. But other
It's a
than that,
killer.
I feel I'm fairly steadfast with I've decided I'm gonna either take a hit or do this, that, or the other thing. The chips always, that's where my anxiety comes in. And I used the triple captain on Mo. Oh, I forget which week it was a bad week though.
Oh yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
And it was one of the double game weeks that Liverpool had. And I put it on with about 4 seconds before the lock, and I was just sweating it out the entire time. I hated the entire experience. Yeah. And I've, from your guys' recommendation, used this site on occasion to kind of see what I could do. I don't really save anything just because my computer's crap, and the more I save on it, the more it just sounds like a chainsaw. So I just don't. I kind of like set it. Look,
It's just like it's begging you to stop using
yeah.
it at times.
I don't want any more memory. Please stop.
I can't remember anything else
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah. But the I agree that being able to kind of look into the future, make like 3 weeks worth of subs without having to kind of commit to it is very helpful, and it kind of puts things in perspective. Granted, it doesn't take into account price changes and so on and so forth, but
Right.
those are things that you can kind of do that little bit of math and work in your head to see, okay, instead of getting this guy, I may have to go here if he goes up 0.1, 0.2, so on and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we took a look there. If we pop over, let me see what else what do Gally and I usually talk about? What else do we talk about? Oh, here, I pulled this up only because you're on the show. I think it's only fair that we take a look into who you are as a fantasy player, because this is something that we've taken a look at for history's sake.
Oh, there's all those L's.
Oh, and yeah,
in bright red color.
Oh man.
Oh,
so
geez.
that's okay. You're just in a lot of leagues, which means that's totally fine. It gives you more opportunity to win, and I respect that. And I feel like I need to join more leagues because it's just fun to be part of a lot.
You get to see a bunch of different arrows, just for those, not the great. But yeah,
it's been mostly green though. I feel like you have like the back and forth where you'll go from a good week to a worse week to a good week to a worse week. You like if you're going to be consistent, I'd rather be consistent like that than consistently red, you know?
Yeah.
I think I like starting off a little bit lower because then you get to kind of see green arrows all the time. It makes you feel better, even though you're still like 8 millionth in the world. You're like, well, I started 11 millionth, so it's fine. You know, I'm still going up a little bit. But we can take a look here, and you've been playing FPL for 10 years.
Yeah,
next year will be your 10th year.
Some of those years where the end game was not great.
That was a pretty great year, though.
I think that was the one where I actually paid for a service of what live FPL is now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If I could go back and find some of those forums that I was on, just because the year before I, as you can see,
was the injury
miserable
year?
And gave up about I'd say 20 game weeks in and just completely fell off a cliff. So I'm like, the next year, you know what? I'm taking this seriously. We're going gung ho. I don't like spending money on free things, and I just kind of cannonballed into that deep end, and it came out pretty good.
I mean,
a lot of that was moving up in the final couple of weeks where everybody's teams is dead. I believe I was like 500,000.
Oh,
and
wow.
That is inflated super high.
I still consider it pretty great and worth it. In what it sounds like, it was worth it. If anything, for the memories. So
yeah. Very much. Yeah, I can look back and be like, hey, there was that one time where and of course now you're like kind of look at things and you're like, I'm probably going to potentially beat that score, and I'm not even going to be in like the top million.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of things that it's wild to see how much like the bonus points and just certain players that kind of break the game a bit.
Yeah. I definitely wish that there was another column here that had percentile, because when we're looking at something like this, there were the number of players have been so different. Back in 2013, 2014, maybe a couple million. I mean, possibly, I don't know. It's not anything like it is now. So it's definitely it's great to see that it's grown. And at any rate, it's still really nice to see a rank that's still really high. But like you were saying, you outscored last year, outscored 17-18 by 200 points and finished 140,000 spots lower.
Yeah.
And you're looking at that and you're going, well, what the hell? I did better. I should be higher. But there's just so many more people now. And I feel like the community is so big. There's just content everywhere. And we end up kind of going back to the term of the kind of like a hive mind of teams where we just have the set team that everyone picks. And so between like, I don't know, 800,000 and 6 millionth, there are only so many different differentiations of teams based on, out of like 18 players, most of those teams are going to have 14 of them. So I know that that's kind of it's been tough to break that. You got to get pretty lucky to find the right differentials while not losing ground on everyone else because they all have the same teams, which makes it frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And especially when you see everybody has like their scout selections and you go, okay, I have 9 of those. I don't know if I should be happy or if I should be upset.
Right. You're like, this is going to go either really poorly or really well.
Yeah. And the 2 people that you have usually just end up not
with a card, giving up several goals, maybe missing a penalty, just classic stuff that you can never avoid.
My big thing this year has been yellow cards after the 80th minute. Oh. They have absolutely driven me up a wall. I've had defenders. I've run through that. That's been my biggest turnover. Like I've had Trippier for pretty much the entire season, but everybody else, it's just been a revolving door. Okay. And every single one that I've brought in for a week that I thought I really nailed it, they get a late yellow card or they give up a goal, like a consolation goal in like the 87th minute, just to take a big fat dump on my dreams. And I have nothing but spite in my heart for each and every one of them.
And it's especially with defenders in FBL specifically, they don't get a lot of chance for points. They either get the clean sheet or they get bonus points. In the situation, sometimes you find that they'll get assists or goals. Yeah, obviously that happens, but there is no other good system that allows them to gain more points. So if you have one of those goals that get given up in the 80th plus minute, when the game's already 3-0, it's a big killer. And so it's definitely one of those, like you said, it takes a giant dump on your dreams, and it's tough. But on that note, we will not take a giant dump on anyone else's dreams. We are going to take a giant leap of faith into green arrows for everyone involved. And Trevor, I appreciate you sitting through this ridiculous attempt at trying to piece together this fantasy show. I appreciate you coming on. Next time you're on, it's going to be a lot more structured. And we're definitely going to have a little bit more that we do beforehand to not make it so improvisational. But any lasting thoughts you would like to, any words of wisdom you would like to impart on the listeners of this show of just incredibly clever fantasy players?
Well, first things first, I want to say for all of the technical snafus that have gone on through the American Scouser networks today between internet outages, power outages, and just sheer chaos, I think you have pulled this together fairly well. So yeah, give yourself a little giant leap of faith fun for that one. And my only words of wisdom are I have no words of wisdom. Look at my team and just go, yeah, some of that's good, but most of that.
Where can I pivot? Yeah. Well, thank you, Trevor. We appreciate it so much. For anyone that's watching here, if you haven't yet, please take a moment to take a look at our fundraiser that's still going on through the end of this month. We do have some great items also for the silent auction. There are those 10 limited edition 7 mil t-shirts designed by someone out in Columbus who was very kind enough to let us use that design as part of our shirts and part of our silent auction. So there's 5 of them left that haven't been bidded on. I bid on one of them and someone outbid me for one instead of going for another one that was less, but that's fine because that's what the silent auction is. It's not a big deal.
I think this is the only instance where we appreciate the banter and of that kind, because it's money going towards a good cause instead
Absolutely.
of
And
taking
it's,
the easy way out.
It's something about the American Scouser limited edition T-shirt 1 out of 10 that is it's kind of sexy, right? You're like, this is the first print. I want this one. And so I think I got to talk to Timothy because I think putting the actual like 1 of 10 on the shirt itself and the 2 of 10 and 3 of 10, I think that's something that we will end up doing. So that way, that this was the first, second, third, whatever the case might be. Just to give it a little bit of extra, a nice touch at the end. Yeah. So please check out that link. For anyone who doesn't know where to find it, just go on our Facebook. We've been blasting it all over the place. If you still can't find it, just message us. We'll send it over to you, and we'll take care of it that way. So for all of us at American Scouser, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next week, at Fantasy Show next week. Tomorrow we've got morning show with Timuchin. Monday, we've got morning show with myself and Timuchin, and then Gally and Bickler Monday night. Then we will have Trevor and Maka, and maybe someone else next Thursday night if all things go well. I know that was part of the internet situation. We weren't able to have the podcast tonight to really celebrate the Leeds victory again. But maybe it's better that you didn't have another opportunity to talk about Jude Bellingham, because I think we've come to a point where we really want to not talk about it. I mean, I know most of us are like, let's just wait till August, but it is what it is.
It's that 24-hour news cycle.
It is.
It doesn't let up.
No, especially when you consider 150 million pound teenage sensational midfielders that could turn an entire team around. But enough on that. We will see you guys on our next broadcast. Have a great night. Take care.